Today is International Women's Day. And in Ireland, it's also Referendum Day. On the ballot, how the country's constitution defines a woman's place in society and what constitutes a family. Voters are going to the polls on two questions. A yes vote would modernize the language. A no vote would keep the constitutional language the same. Abby is joining us with more on that, a fitting conversation on this International Women's Day. The vote deliberately planned to take place today. So good morning to you, Abby, and tell us more about the issues that voters are deciding on in Ireland today.
Good morning, Heather. You know, it's a double referendum, as you say, on this International Women's Day. People in Ireland will vote on amending two clauses from the country's 1937 constitution that the Prime Minister, Leo Varadkar, has said is about removing inequality from the document. Now, the first vote is on something called the Care Amendment, or the Women in the Home provision. Right now, the Constitution says women shouldn't have to work out of economic necessity if that means they'll be neglecting their, quote, duties at home, that those duties are in support of the state. That's what the Constitution says now. And the amendment would see new wording which highlights care by all members of the family. And the second vote is about the Family Amendment, which looks at expanding the definition beyond the nuclear family for those who aren't married or are single-parent households. This matters because the Constitution offers legal protection to the family unit in Ireland, which is linked to marriage right now. So two votes to try and avoid some confusion. They're going to be on different colored pieces of paper, and they're voting today, Heather, and we're expecting results around lunchtime, local time tomorrow.
In recent Irish referenda, Abby, I think of same-sex marriage, I think of abortion. Certainly we know that voters did turn out to make their opinions known. In terms of turnout, what's the expectation today?
Yeah, they are unfortunately expecting a low turnout. Regarding the cases you mentioned, it seemed to be very, very clear to people what they were voting on. Rachel Walsh is an associate law professor in Dublin, and she says that there's some confusion here about both of these issues, and they don't know really what is being asked of them. And a recent poll shows that 53% are unclear about today's vote. Here's what she had to say.
I think a big concern for this is turnout. I think there's a concern that turnout may be very low. So, you know, we've had those headline referendums in the last number of years on abortion and same-sex marriage, for example, where turnout was very high. Historically, when the Irish electorate in referendums have been confused or unsure, they've tended to err towards no rather than yes, as a broader pattern.
She is still expecting both amendments to go through, but again, uncertainty not ideal. On the Women in the Home provision, critics are worried that placing the onus on family members to provide care could potentially reduce the government's responsibility. That's not outlined. Activists say the rights of the people being cared for, whether they're elderly or disabled, isn't made very clear here either. And for the Family Amendment, the second one, which seeks to recognize what they call in the document durable relationships, that's causing confusion too, because what does that mean? And there are plenty of questions as well about, you know, how will families then be taxed? What kind of impacts could this have on court cases or inheritance disputes? So people have plenty of questions, but Rachel Walsh says the amendments, again, are likely to pass, as most people agree, Heather, that these are outdated.